The fire had already eaten half the old prospector's shack when Ethan Matthews heard the screaming. Two voices, high, terrified, cut through the crackle of burning wood. He'd been riding past, heading home before sunset, when he saw the black smoke rising over the ridge. Without a thought, he dismounted, dropped his reins, and ran toward the flames. The door was already a wall of fire. He yanked off his shirt, soaked it with his canteen, wrapped it over his face, and kicked through a weakened plank of the wall. Smoke and heat swallowed him whole. Inside, two small figures crouched in the farthest corner, Apache girls, maybe 8 and 10 years old, crying and clutching each other. When they saw the white man burst through the smoke, they screamed louder. "I'm here to help," Ethan shouted, though he knew they couldn't understand his words. He grabbed the younger one first, tucking her under one arm as she fought him, then seized the older girl's hand and pulled hard toward the opening. The roof groaned. A beam split above him. He dove through the hole just as the ceiling collapsed behind them. They rolled into the dirt outside, coughing, shaking, alive. The girls scrambled away the moment they could, their eyes wide with fear. Ethan held up both hands. "Easy. You're safe now." They didn't believe him. The older girl pointed back toward the burning shack, then to the woods, speaking in fast Apache. Ethan couldn't understand, only saw the urgency in her face. Before he could respond, both girls turned and bolted into the trees, vanishing like startled deer. Ethan sat in the dust, lungs burning, hands blistered from the heat. He'd risked his life for 2 children who fled the moment they were safe. But he couldn't blame them. In this land, Apache and white men shared only mistrust, and too often, blood. He rode home, cleaned his burns, and tried to forget the faces he'd seen through the smoke. But that night, he couldn't sleep. Those frightened eyes haunted him, the fear, the innocence, the way they disappeared into the trees. By morning, he'd convinced himself it was over. He was mending a fence post when he heard hooves in the distance. He turned, and froze. The 2 girls from the fire rode double on a paint mare, wearing clean clothes. Beside them, astride a tall black horse, rode a woman who made Ethan forget to breathe. She was Apache, early 30s, proud and composed, her bearing regal. Her dress was finely made, adorned with silver and beads that caught the sun. Her dark eyes held a calm strength, and behind it, deep gratitude. They stopped a few yards from him. The woman dismounted with the grace of someone raised on horseback. The girls stayed close, watching him with cautious curiosity. "You are the one who saved my daughters," the woman said in perfect English. Her voice was soft, melodic, but carried authority. "I just did what anyone would have done, ma'am," Ethan said, setting down his tools and removing his hat. "No," she said firmly. "You did what a man of courage and goodness would do. Many would have ridden past. Some would have heard children scream and still ridden past, because they were Apache." Her eyes shimmered. "You ran into fire. You risked your life for strangers. For my daughters." She stepped closer. "I am called Kimala, it means butterfly. These are my daughters, Chenoa and Tyanita. Yesterday they sought shelter in that shack when the storm came. Lightning struck. They would have died if not for you." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just glad I was near. They're not hurt. Only smoke and fear." "Nothing lasting," Kimala said. Then she drew a steadying breath, her gaze searching his face. "I am a widow. My husband was killed 2 years ago by Mexican soldiers. Since then, I have raised my daughters alone. Life for an Apache woman without a husband is difficult, dangerous." Ethan's heartbeat quickened, sensing what might come next. "You saved my children's lives," Kimala continued. "By Apache law, that creates a debt no wealth can repay. It can only be repaid with life for life. I offer you myself and my daughters. We will come live with you, serve your household, and share your burdens. This is the only way to honor what you have done. Ethan stared, speechless. Ma'am, I can't accept that. I didn't save them expecting any reward. I know, she said softly. That is why you deserve it. A man who expects no payment for his heroism is the one most worthy of reward. He shook his head. You're talking about servitude. About making yourselves mine. That's not right. Kimila's expression softened. You misunderstand. I do not offer slavery. I offer partnership. I am a healer, a cook, a worker. My daughters learn quickly. We would make your home our home, your land our land. In return, you would give us safety and belonging. She hesitated, voice gentler. And perhaps, if the spirits wish it, more than partnership. I offer to be your wife, if you would have me. My daughters need a father. I need a companion. And you, she looked around his quiet ranch, you need a family. Ethan swallowed hard. You don't know me. You can't decide something like this based on one act. I know enough, she said. I know you ran into fire for children not your own. I know you refused reward. That tells me who you are better than words. He looked at the girls on horseback, watching him now with shy curiosity, then back at her. What if I'm not what you need? What if I fail you? Then you will fail as all people sometimes do, Kimila said softly. But you will fail with honor. That is all that matters. Her offer hung in the air, wild, impossible, yet sincere. Ethan had been alone 5 years since leaving Missouri, building this ranch board by board. But it had always felt empty, like he was preparing a home for ghosts. Give me time, he said finally. Not to decide if I want this, but to make sure it's done right. I won't have you or your daughters here as servants paying a debt. If you stay, it must be as equals, as family. Kimila smiled, and the change in her face was radiant. You are a wise man, Ethan Matthews. I know your name, I asked in town. We will give you time. But know this, the spirits led me here. They saved my daughters through your hands. This is meant to be. She mounted again with elegant ease. We will return in 1 week. That week was the strangest of Ethan's life. He repaired the spare bedroom, built bunks for the girls, and tried to imagine laughter in the silent house. He rode to town for fabric and supplies, enduring curious stares. He even visited a lawyer, arranging papers to ensure Kimila and her daughters would have rights and safety if anything happened to him. Each night he thought of her words, about debt, destiny, and the loneliness he'd never admitted until now. Exactly 7 days later, they returned. Alongside them rode her brother, Chayton, a tall, grim-faced warrior, and a wagon carrying their belongings. My brother wishes to know your intentions, Kimila translated, though Ethan sensed Chayton understood well enough. He asks if you will honor me, and protect his nieces. Ethan met the man's eyes. I'll treat them with respect, protect them with my life, and do everything I can to make them happy. I can't promise perfection, but I'll always do right by them. Chayton studied him, then gave a single nod. Kimila smiled. He says you may be white, but your heart is honest. He gives his blessing. Life together began awkwardly. The girls spoke little, shy and uncertain. They watched Ethan cautiously, whispering to their mother in Apache. But over time, things changed. Ethan taught them to ride, to feed the horses, to read English words. Kimila transformed his house, adding warmth, color, and laughter. The smell of stew and cedar smoke replaced dust and silence. At night, after the girls slept, Ethan and Kimila sat by the fire talking about their lives, his years of solitude, her memories of family and war, the strange bond that had brought them together. She taught him her language, he shared his books and stories of the East. Slowly, affection grew into something deeper. 6 months later, on a calm spring evening, Ethan took her hands. Kimila, he said, I don't want you here because of a debt. I want you here because you choose to be. Will you marry me, properly, this time? She smiled and cupped his face. Foolish man. I chose you long ago. The debt was only an excuse to offer my heart without shame. From the moment I saw you sitting by that burned shack, your hands blistered but your eyes full of worry for my daughters, I knew you were the one. They were married in both Apache and white traditions, her brother standing proudly beside her, the girls tossing wildflowers and giggling through the ceremony. The town whispered, but Ethan and Kimala didn't care. They had built something too rare to be shaken by gossip, a family forged not by obligation, but by gratitude turned to love. Years later, when Chenoa and Tyanida were grown women with children of their own, they told the story of the cowboy who saved them from fire. But the real story, they'd say, wasn't about the rescue, it was about what came after. He saved our lives, Chenoa would tell her children, but he gave us more than life. He gave us a home, a father, a future. And Tyanida would add softly, Mother said she offered herself to repay a debt. But we saw her face. There was no debt in her eyes, only hope. Ethan and Kimala built something rare on that lonely stretch of prairie, a union born from courage and kindness, not fear or power. A home built on respect between two worlds, where love grew quietly from the ashes of fire and turned strangers into family. Sometimes the greatest rewards for heroism aren't medals or glory, but a hand extended in gratitude, and a heart brave enough to take it.